There is no time wasted. We cleaned up all the oil off the floor and we are focused on turning this thing into a vehicle engine, not just an engine on a stand, but we need to make tons of power out of it and get it ready for putting it into something special. If that little backfire taught us anything, it's that at over 35 PSI, we found all the leaks. It was perfect because it actually had a little bit of smoke and shot smoke out of the corner of all the areas that were leaking. So what we need to do is flatten the intake manifold. This is a banana boat. It curves like that. And I'm gonna guess it's over 35 thousandths based on what I was looking at. I'm gonna be using this as a fly cutter. And the problem is it's not tall enough to go directly over it like you see on all those head machining videos. So what I'm gonna do is I made the throw long enough that I'm gonna have this basically go from here and spin, whop, 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 whop. So we're gonna have this rainbow shape. That was touching in the very middle. I haven't changed heights. That shows you how much this thing is just warped. Being that's the first time I've ever done something like that, you can see the vibration making marks, creates these little waves. You can actually probably see it best here. Really wild watching it. Once it hits, it bounces. That said, this is easy to treat. It looks worse than it is, but we now have a much flatter manifold. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this side. So with that step done very successfully, in theory we could just throw the gasket on and call it, but that's obviously not how we operate. So I'm gonna take a stone, since the whole thing's already pretty much flat, I don't have to worry about like bowing it myself. We have a bit of an issue. Our intake manifold is trash. We had to put something on the board, and thanks to Tyson, the guy that invented the 12 rotor, was like, hey, I did something just like that years ago. And when you start flowing air, as you can see Ethan's simulating airflow with it naturally aspirated, airflow across the surface like this can end up creating Venturi effect and actually vacuuming out certain ports. And so when you look at this, like these ports are getting a lot of nice little arrows. Not so much as you'd expect. Like this area is like neglected, but he gets nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's a tornado going on in there, but he gets nothing, and that makes sense. These are going right past the top of it. This is sitting in timeout for a moment. It's done an incredible job, but we were waiting for this. This thing is basically a mass airflow sensor on a stick. What we're looking for is at least the consistency to test airflow. So the way this little thing works is that there's a temp sensor, essentially a little element right there. It can estimate how much air is flowing past it by how much it cools back down. So it knows the outside air temperature, or whatever air, these both have to be in the same channel. So if it's 70 degrees going past this one, and it's 80 degrees going past this one, it can do all the calculation and figure that out. What we're gonna do is buy 2 leaf blowers, stick them here and here, and then measure each port individually and see the airflow between them. And that should really tell us some fascinating information. I guarantee this one is going to be misbehaving. I'm gonna do a blowing contest, and we're gonna see who can move the most air. Okay, Ethan's up first. 25, ooh.
Jeez,
ooh.
what the heck?
He was efficient. Okay,
I'm gonna sandbag this.
24. 56.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm full of hot air. All right, Joel, you hit it.
Oh, you spit on me.
Yeah, you spit on it. 62.
Oh.
Yeah. Ethan, Rob, me, Joel.
Professional blower at your services.
Yeah.
Super
That's going to be super useful. We are going to simulate moving a lot of air. Now, this isn't going to simulate the pressure. It's kind of tough because airflow is not air volume, but there's some correlation. I don't give a shit about the speed, but the cubic feet per minute, we could probably do some rough math from that. And we are going to put these into each of the intakes and then watch how much each of those runners do or do not work. See that jet turbine sitting right in there? Okay. The fixture's perfect. Things are starting to come together, and I am very happy that we followed through on this. We only have one powered up because this is annoying, but we're gonna go ahead and just turn it on and see. That's just one side. It actually, I'm really impressed that it feels physically the same across here. This feels a little bit weaker. My initial guess is that the numbers are, this is the strongest set, next strongest, next, weak, almost nothing, and then absolutely nothing on any of these three. We're just gonna stick with miles per hour because same size for all of these, and we're gonna 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, and then see what it tells us. Now that they're on two different breakers, that's too high of a range.
Aired out, right?
So first one, second one, and then third one, it aired out. We're gonna set them both to medium first. Look at that. This one's low, this one's not much better. This one starts to climb up. This one is climbing, and then the last four are all even. That was a peak of 62 miles per hour. So we're gonna see side to side how far off that is. But sadly, because this thing can't read over 70 miles an hour, we can't turn it full speed. But we do know it's not even. And the good news is we can weld shit into here and then at full speed, see if they all kind of like air out at the same time. So we have some really interesting data. The front runners on both of them are virtually identical. There is a distinct difference side to side on the rear runners. So the very rear runner is getting slightly less than the one before it, but you can see that all the runners on this side are significantly, but slightly less. So we do know that we are going to naturally have a problem here. Now this is rotor 1, 2, 3, 4 type of thing. These two are wired together. So I have a third of difference of airflow. I'm simplifying all this. That means that if I give the same amount of fuel to both of these, which I have to right now, one of them will either be 30% rich or 30% lean, or 15 one way and 15 the other way. So Ethan made this little chingaderas. All the runners on these are the same diameter, so it's kind of the same thing, different shapes. We're gonna look for the ratio amongst these, and we'll kind of look at these compared to these, but if it's like way off, I would be careful. It doesn't flow as much as these, and it definitely doesn't flow as much as these right here, but they do the same thing. The front one's the worst, step up, and then all the same. That's really kind of how I'm thinking this. Worst, step up, almost fully, all the same. Now it's time to start welding little pieces to it and seeing how it changes the airflow. We are all super interested in seeing how the real world version of this turns into results. If they're pretty close, then I'll be able to say, okay, these two is plus 2%, these two are minus 2%, or something along those lines. So something very fascinating about this that is almost coincidental. This is 1.5 inches in diameter. All the runners are this size. And these are actually technically that size too. They just split out, get wider. But this surface area with this flow ends up being where if we read, we'll say 60 miles an hour of air coming out of this, a lot of constraints, a lot of overestimations, but that actually ends up meaning about 55 cubic feet of air per minute. So it directly relates to airflow, to air volume. If I say this one, it has 20% less speed, because there's not really a pressure difference going on here, that 20% less speed actually means 20% less flow. And what was really neat is last night I went through and did all the math based on the average speed of all of these, and it came up to under the number rated on these. So these both rated to whatever they said, 800 CFM each on high. But when I added it all up, it ended up being 1200, which must be both of them on low. So really, really good to see the math all adding up with good approximations. Let's see what happens. Our simple test has become more complex just because the cart moves, these move, everything's moving. It's working, but you can tell one thing that's very interesting is that it's showing you that there's more resistance in the manifold because of the plates, so it's actually physically pushing. We're trading off flow for consistent flow for pressure. There's way too much air going to this one. It's incredibly way higher than all the other ones. I can feel it when I'm over it, but all the other ones are pretty even, and you can see pretty even here, but it's fascinating. High, low, then it kind of levels off in the very back one. Rob just grinded the inner plate, and it was a test, and he said no, and that was the right answer. And then I said, well, let's throw one of these back on and close all these off, so it's like a positive pressure that has to shoot the air out. And sure enough, we made sure he was wearing glasses for that because it was just shooting all of the grind onto him, which sounds oddly sexual. We just put our hands over these, and they feel very even. When I did it the first time, this was very clearly, I didn't need a sensor to tell me. So we're gonna go ahead and run it again, compare. Now, one thing I just realized, those things are technically creating more back pressure, and we could tell that because that's pushing the things apart. But more than that, that directly resulted in all of these being, on average, less air velocity. That's one way that you could measure if your intake manifold's restrictive or not, is that throwing this much air in, if they start slowing down, adding them all together, slowing down on average, that means that you're creating more restriction. But it was so subtle, and we need to do it for the sake of what we're doing. Let's see what numbers we get now. That's night and day from the original setup till now. They are all even, essentially even. It gets funny on this row is that there's high, lower, higher. And the good news is the very front and the rear rotors average out. They look like they average out. And the middle ones are very close too. And then this is on the rows here, and making those little changes changed these a little bit as well. But we have another thing where the front rotor and the rear rotor are getting the same amount of air, and the middle one have one runner getting high air, one runner getting low air. So we're in business that one rotor is not going to be lean and one rich. This is drastically different. Let's compare that. That was the front runner right there. Second runner, they're like, what's that difference? That's like 40 to 62. That's how much of a difference before putting those plates in. And now they're all so much even. What a massive difference on the flow of this thing. Now, what I did notice is all the numbers are slightly lower than they were before, and you can kind of roll these and mess that up a little bit, but I'm not surprised that the average number is slightly lower because there's a little bit more restriction. But even power means this manifold, we'll just clean it up just a little bit, is ready for the dyno.